Yes, welcome, welcome. Happy New Year to everybody. Welcome to the first crossover sports podcast of 2017. I have with me the regulars with history right here. We have our first. I told y'all it was going to happen. We have our first female sports fan on the crossover podcast in forever. Yes, 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 yes. We're going to go right down the line. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Stokely.
Hi there, it's Tristiana Hinton, DC area native. Here to bring a little bit of, well, losing Redskins talk, I guess, maybe.
Right down the line. Go ahead, man.
Other than the meowing that I hear in the background, kill the cat. I'm glad to be here. Glad to be here today. I can't believe I talk about these damn Cowboys again because they're getting on my nerves. But I'm glad I got my free Dunkin' Donuts coffee because it was by far the greatest coffee I've ever tasted in my life. OMG! But with that being said, I'm glad to be here once again. Just I'm to stomach this cowboy crap one more time, but it is what it is.
Trey, if you're there, go ahead. Well, I guess it's not.
I'm here.
Go
I'm here,
ahead.
guys.
Go ahead. Introduce yourself.
Uh, what's up, guys? This will be the first podcast of 2016. Hopefully this will be another good podcast.
2017.
Yes, the first podcast of 2017. Thank you, Mac. So hopefully we can get some good conversation. About sports, politics, whatever the case may be, and yeah. Oh, and one last thing. At certain points, Kylan will call me CT3. I did not make that nickname for myself. He made that up, just for the record.
It's a great nickname, man. Keep it going. It's a great nickname.
You're right. You're right.
um, yeah. So we gonna talk about our first big. Well, let me get my thoughts again. We're gonna talk about our first topic, which is I guess we're gonna start the show like we always start the show with. We're gonna talk about that unfortunate incident that happened in Chicago with the four assailants beating up the disabled Caucasian. So y'all go ahead, right down the line. We'll start with Tristy about that.
I it really was an unfortunate. I don't understand what those kids were thinking. Like, what possesses you to do something like that? I really don't. It's hard for me to even fathom why you would abduct someone. And I mean, you knew one of these kids knew this kid. Like, you went to school with this kid. It's just it it's sad that this is where we are and this is what we come to, but also it's so dumb that kids just use social media for things like this. Um, that was a thing that was crazy to me. Like, why would you put that on Facebook Live? What makes you think that's a good idea? I don't know. It's just it is troubling that this is where we are, and it seems like things are just gonna keep getting worse from here on out. So
Go ahead, Matt. Right down the line.
Oh boy. Well, hearing about it, first of all, wrecks my soul. Uh, I've worked with special needs kids for special needs children for a while, for like 3 years, and there's nothing like having that connection with those people. And as I'm hearing and reading the story and how things unfolded, it is unfortunate that it happened to this individual and these four these 40 people. You know, doing what they did, and worse, doing this on Facebook Live. I mean, I have a couple questions on that one. Number one, what was your what? First of all, why did you lure this? Why did you lure this person who who you all intents purpose is like looking for someone to chill, hang out with? You take advantage of it and pretty much go within an inch of his life, and and not only humiliate this kid, this person, but also use racial stuff. I don't care if you're black, white, red, yellow, don't matter. The fact of the matter is a person's a person at the end of the day. So with that being said, justice was swift, and it's supposed to be swift. Now I was reading an article with Sean Green, and he did bring this up on the fact that now what happened, the punishment did fit the crime. I will admit to that, but I don't want to bring the racist. I won't. Let's call it for what it is. Let that be the other way around. This would dragged on, and I agree with. And that part I do agree with, but doesn't matter. At the end of the day, what happened there should not have happened. It is deplorable, and it's deplorable. It is just flat out evil, and I'm glad that nothing worse could happen, i.e., death. But either way, it's just flat out evil. It is flat out wrong. I mean, the punishment did fit the crime, and we as a people, we have to look out. We have to look out for those who are, especially those people who are autistic, those who are dealing with some different spectrums of autism and cerebral palsy, and I can go down the line in terms of special needs. We as a people at large have to make sure that if there's anything that is out of the ordinary, anything that that's not right, that's normal, it needs to be reported, because at the end of the day, they're people. At the end of the day, they have feelings and thoughts just like everybody else. Only some things aren't right in terms of their makeup. But we have to take care of one another no matter what. And what happened here was flat out blank.
Trey, it's on you.
I think it's what's the word I want to use? It's for lack of a term. I say it's a shame that this happened. It's definitely a shame that these kids. I think there's four teens, or three teens. Three of them were 18, and the other person was 24. So that's even worse. You had a 24-year-old who's involved in this, and then go and put this on social media, on Facebook Live for that matter. And so it's a shame that they would do something like that to a mentally disabled person. And you never want to see anybody in a position where, I mean, I don't know in terms of what mental incapacity this kid has, but I mean, let's say that it's something that causes him to be much weaker than other people. He's quadruple teamed by four people who are clearly much stronger than him. They beat the crap out of him, and they put it on Facebook Live. At the same time, though, it's interesting that all of this is coming out so quickly. You kind of had their mugshots on their mugshots are going around social media and everything. But you have other situations where where a white person is the assailant, not necessarily in a situation like this, where the white person is an assailant, and it doesn't necessarily play out the same way. Now, that's not to say that I definitely think that those people, the three teens and the one adult, really, they definitely should go to prison, maybe even be charged as adults, just because of how heinous. It would be one thing if they had just kind of bullied the kid and kind of with their words, but to actually put their hands on the kid and physically torture the kid, that takes it to another level. And then it's already kind of at, like, if you're rating it on a scale from 1 to 10, it's already at a 10, like maybe even an 11. And they take it from that times like 4 or 5 by putting it on Facebook Live and letting the whole world see. So it's just a shame that, for lack of a better term, it's a shame that we've come to the point where kids are putting like something so like it's just amazing like that on Facebook. Like, if I was now, I would never do this. I would never bully or torture somebody who's mentally disabled. But if I were going to do something like that, I wouldn't want to put it on Facebook Live and let the whole world know, because now that's evidence for, their arrest and their incarceration. So it really makes no sense. Now, I have yet to see the video. I would like to see the video just to kind of get an idea of what actually went down. But again, it's just a shame.
Yeah, I agree with all of you. I think, Trey, the word you may be looking for is heinous. Probably, it was a heinous act, a very deviant act, to use a criminology term. A deviant act.
Deviant is a good. Yeah, there you go.
A very deviant act of what they did, and it takes a lot of. It's just ironic, the planning that it takes to, meet this boy, because more facts have come out. They said they met this kid at McDonald's. He then came over their house for a sleepover under the auspices of a sleepover. And then you tie him up, you beat him up, you make him say different things. And then I'm not even at the Facebook Live part of it either. But like, just that in itself is heinous. And I just wonder, like, if the thought they put into doing this when they picked him out, because they picked him out like a serial killer or a hunter or an animal, like they treated him like he was a lamb or a ram to the slaughter. Like, they were all like, okay, we're going to pick him. I don't know, but to me, just like how they did it and what they said and made him say, it seemed like it was a very well-planned thing. And you don't just randomly just wake up and say, you know what, kid that's always hanging out with us, we're going to beat him up, make him say F Donald Trump and F white people, and put it on Facebook Live. Like, you don't just wake up and say that. So you obviously had some planning in here, right? And I forgot that, I just thought all 4 of them were teenagers, but now that I hear that one of them is 24, you should know better. You're 24. Realistically, at 24 years old, I don't know. You're getting out of college. You're getting your foot in the ground. You shouldn't even be thinking about beating up somebody who's in high school. And going along with what Matt said, I also work with special needs kids, kids with autism, kids who have ADHD, who are oppositionally defiant as well. When I'm not writing articles, so I work with these kids as well. And it's just like, just to even think about what these kids go through on a regular basis, and then you decide to do that to them. Like, of all the things to do to these kids, they already mentally and they have so much going on, and you just do that. Come on. And go along with Tristiania said, like, I'm appalled that this is where we are right now. It's 2017. It's a new year. We're getting ready for the Trump apocalypse in 14 days, and now we have this. It's too much. And going along with that, something that's amiss in this case, and I think Matt pointed it out, is that this is the first time a mentally disabled person was taken advantage of. somewhere in the I was about to say the Middle East, in the in the Midwest. I think in Kansas. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. A white football player, took advantage of a mentally disabled African American and stuck a hanger up his behind. And the judge decided, nah, you need, basically gave him a slap on the wrist and said, you know what, you're not going to jail. You're not going to jail. You need a good record for when you go to college. You know, the basic excuse, right? And I just find it ironic that now, and black, white, whatever, this is heinous no matter what, but the selective outrage to me is kind of a big deal. But it's a heinous crime. It shouldn't have happened. I mean, you guys have any final things to add? You can add them. We can go right down the line again. Go ahead, Tristy, if you have anything. No, guess not. Go ahead.
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna end it here on that one. Like I said, it's wrong no matter how you slice it, and now I'm hearing the fact that you have a 24-year-old person who was a part of it, and you have these young people who are going along with it. That just sheds a whole nother light in this whole mess, because if that 24-year-old person was plotting this out from the jump, then it is what it is, unfortunately. And it's unfortunate that, this 24-year-old person, the older person, did not speak up, did not say anything, did not even have any good conscience, if any, to say, no, this is probably not a good thing to do, this is the wrong thing to do. But the fact that this person let it go on, and worse, put it on social media. I don't care if it's Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever. It's the fact that you put it on social media. I don't know if you thought it was a joke. I don't know if you're trying to prove a point. Well, if you try to prove a point, oh, by the way, you made the dumbest point you could ever make in your lives, and it cost you your life. But my thing is this: I'm looking at the eldest person in the group. What the hell were you thinking? What were you thinking? Why would you go ahead and literally, in a sense, pick apart this kid, this person? Why would you do that? There's so many questions that I personally have, but my focus on oldest person in the room. What were you thinking? That's my only question on that one, and that's where I stand on it.
Trey, if you have anything, if not, we can move on to the next one. But I'm gonna let you have the final word on it.
Oh yeah, I feel the same way as Matt. At the same time, the other were 18, so they're not. My parents will always bring up the fact that certain, at 18, the whatever part of your brain is not fully developed, blah blah blah, all that. But clearly, these four people expressed that a part of their brain is still not developed, and they're just as mentally challenged as the mentally disabled kid. But especially the oldest person, and I'll just leave it at that. Like, as somebody who's older if you're hanging out with somebody who's younger than you, you should have enough conscience. You should be human enough to understand, okay, we shouldn't be tying another human being, regardless of whether they're mentally disabled or not.
All right, that's the word on this incident. So yeah, as you can see, we're fair on all accounts. Whether whoever the perpetrators are, black, white, or whatever, if the crime's heinous enough, we will talk about it. So our next topic, we're gonna move on to. We're gonna save the sports ones for later. But guys, I shared a video with all of you dealing with a former pastor of the church. For those of you that don't know, we're all believers up in this joint. Spoiler alert. But so do you guys think? So I'm gonna frame the question like this. So the pastor in the video, unfortunately, those of you viewing the show and who will view it now or later, you won't have the privy to this video like the four of us do. But do you guys? So I'm gonna frame it around this. Do you guys, feel that consciousness, black consciousness, is killing the church? We'll just go right down the line. Tristy, if you want to talk about it, go ahead.
It was watching this video was interesting to me because I struggle with some of this stuff myself. Kind of especially along those lines of the idea of slavery and how Christianity was used to justify it and to keep Black people in line. And so, some of the stuff that he was saying did resonate with me. And it's tough to kind of walk that line between the Word of God and what's written in the Bible and the atrocities that the Bible has been used for. But I think some of the things that have always stuck out to me about the Bible are just like how translation works. And, we're reading a Bible that is so many times removed from the original wording and phrasing. And so it's hard to know just how accurate it really is. And, I can see kind of where he's coming from in certain aspects, but at the same time, there's just so much in the Word that is positive and, does really speak to what I feel God is saying to me. So I don't know that I would say consciousness is killing the church, but it's difficult to balance those two things, and at least for me. And there are times where I kind of struggle with walking fully with Christ versus, fighting for the rights of Black America. And I'm not always sure that those two things go hand in hand. So, yeah.
There's a fine line. I'll tell you this right now. Now, hearing what's going here, let me back up. The way the Bible was introduced to us was used improperly, almost to the point of abusively. Because you have to remember, how in the world can I keep X amount of slaves in line? You have to break them down psychologically, not just physically, not just emotionally. You have to break them down psychologically. And you remember, we're dealing with psychological trauma that we as a people have not come out of yet, and it is showing in the crime rate, poverty, education, you name it, it's there. Now, as far as consciousness is concerned, there's a very, 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 very fine line. Because the one thing you have to be careful of, and I hear this a lot, is in the tone, pride kicks in. When pride takes over, it's all systems go. Because when it's one thing to see things, okay, we get it, and there's injustice going on. But to take it a step further, you got to be careful. I mean, like the word of God, like word of God is clear about, you know, pride and arrogance, even to the point of being self-righteous. Now, I understand and sympathize this point, but at the same time, you have to understand this: the way the Bible was introduced to us was in a way to keep us in line. Remember, we weren't able to read and write, so that's already another strike against us. So, this: if we had the power or just the knowledge just to read and write and pick apart the Bible the way that we pick it apart right now, who knows what the result would have been. Okay. And also you have to think about, we as a people, we have to stick up for those who cannot defend themselves. That's something that we're easily called to do. It's not an argument. It's in the Bible. That's what we're called to do. Jesus requires us to do that. But with that being said, with Black consciousness, yes, do we need to be aware? Yes. Conscious, that's more all of that as well, but you have to be careful, because if you become too self-conscious or awoke, so to speak, then you pretty much lose. You go to a place where you're gone. You're gone. And in my opinion, it's like you have to find a balance. There has to be some type of balance, because yes, you're preaching. Yes, you preach the word of God, you teach and everything, but you have to understand at the same time the history connotation that came along with it. I come across a lot of people on Facebook and everything else who post a lot of memes about pretty much mocking Christianity and everything else. I have to remind these people, like, look, I'm not here to argue or with you or debate with you. I'm just letting you know that if you look at the history that is the history that is American history, the Bible has been used against us, and also they lied to us through the Bible and manipulated us because of the Bible. Now, they manipulated us through the Bible. Excuse me. So, with that being said, you have to really peel back layers as to how the Bible was used and how it was delivered and the tone that was delivered to. But with that being said, I think we need to take another few steps back before we can say, you know what, I don't want to touch the Bible anymore because it's been translated one too many times. I mean, granted, there's some translations I personally will not touch. I will admit that, because like Tatiana said, it's been far. It's like it's been far removed. I mean, for all that, I might as well go straight to Greek or Hebrew translation and just go from there. But with that being said, I think a lot more research needs to be done, and we can't look at it from a one-sided standpoint, and that's where it really gets into trouble. Because if you look at it from a one-sided standpoint, then the view can get skewed. But you have to remember, the way the Bible was introduced to us was in the way to us in line psychologically. Because remember, we didn't know we couldn't read and write, and we didn't believe that we had this much power until we start reading it for ourselves and realize, oh wait, I'm actually more free than what I thought I was. I'm actually have more liberty than I thought I did. And what they're doing is wrong. What they're saying to me is wrong. And think about that. If they understood and knew the full-blown power of God that we know now, who knows what the result would have been if they knew what the Bible really said. It's a tough pill to swallow, but it's a start in the right direction. Next.
The first question I would ask this, I didn't watch the full video, but I watched a good majority of it. But one of the first questions that popped in my head was he ever really saved? But I want to get on one thing is the accuracy of the Bible. If you look back at any sacred book, such as the Bible or the Quran of any religion, maybe not so much in the last 200 years or so, 300 years or so, but usually sacred books in a religion were taken care of very well, and so they were very accurate. Now, with it, as humans, we're flawed, so we do things. We're not perfect in the way we translate the Bible. So you might be going through certain translations of the Bible, and for example, you go through something in the New Testament and you see one word, but you go back to the Greek and that translation of the word doesn't really give you. It might not necessarily change the meaning of the verse, but it doesn't give it what it really was intended to. So that's why when you're listening to a sermon, a lot of times, if a preacher or a pastor will give you the Greek definition of a word to give you a better understanding of what the scripture is really trying to say. But for all intents and purposes, the Bible is actually very accurate. You can actually go back. I can't go through all of it right now, and you guys can do this on your own. You can go back and look at how sacred books were taken care of, and specifically the Bible, and actually the way it was passed down, it like by transcript, and they took very good care of, coming from Bible times all the way till now, the Bible was taken very good care of. And they made sure that they tried to be as accurate as possible when translating and stuff like that. So, and actually, compared to other religions, the Bible is actually a lot more accurate than other holy or sacred books, because they were considered holy. They were considered they were books that were set apart. So, from a Christian perspective, the Bible is inspired by God, and God used man to write it. So that's why a lot of times people will say, well, it's flawed, people wrote it, blah, blah, blah. It was, and then this guy in the video was saying it was just kind of made up stuff. He mentioned some things about unicorns and dragons and stuff, which is true. Though, there's a scripture in, I don't know, somewhere in the Old Testament that mentions some creature called a Leviathan. And if you know anything about, if you've ever heard the word Leviathan, it's a similar, most of the times you would think of some type of, dinosaur creature, but usually what it's thought of, the Leviathan is thought to be like a woolly mammoth potentially, or potentially some type of breed of elephant. But
actually, the dinosaur term didn't come up like 1800.
Right. But I'm saying that word Leviathan shows up in the Bible. So you'd have to look at the Greek translation to see maybe a more accurate translation, but that's beside the point. Does the back to the point though about consciousness being, or black consciousness? I believe there is a fine line to walk, and you have to find that for yourself, because there are certain things, like, I don't know if it's, I guess you can call it a little bit of self-righteousness, but like, I haven't necessarily experienced, but I do know people who have experienced where they're like, they're on the fence about certain things where, maybe they had a bad encounter with someone in school or something where, there was a racist teacher or something like that, or they, just growing up watching, certain things going on during the civil rights movement, or growing up during the civil rights movement, stuff like that. And so a perfect example of two people who were very conscious black men is Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Martin Luther King he's like the most conscious black person you can really think of, aside from Malcolm X. But he was also a pastor, and it's if you, I think back in like maybe one of our third podcast, I think Kylan read part of or all of Martin Luther King's last sermon, and like that is probably one of the most woke sermons you could read. So Martin Luther King, I think he's like a great example of what it means to be black and conscious while also being Christian, and holding to what the Bible says. On the other hand, Malcolm X, he was a different type of black conscious. He was more smooth. He was like the cool guy, you know. He was a Muslim. So from that perspective, Malcolm kind of got it wrong in terms because he wasn't trying to be Christian and be conscious. But I think those are two examples of what it means to be black and conscious. Martin Luther King being an example of what it means to be Christian, black, and be a black person and be a Christian and be conscious, and Malcolm being an example of someone who's Muslim being black and conscious. But like Matt was saying, there is definitely a fine line. You have to walk. As a Christian, you definitely have to walk that line, because sometimes we can tend to go away from what the Bible says about, you know, loving our enemies. But specifically about the video, like I said, the first thing I said was he really saved? And some of the questions he raised are fair. They're fair questions that everybody deal with. But there's another video. I can't remember what the name of the video was, but it was a gentleman doing I think he was doing spoken word. And the title of the video, I think, was, or kind of the subject of the spoken word was about, rather than doubting God, maybe we should doubt of God. And so, because to me, it doesn't really make sense. Like, how could you be a pastor, you know, preaching the word and, you know, study? I mean, like, to preach a sermon, like, that's a grueling thing to do. Like, it's not just like you sit down one night, you kind of sit down for 3 hours, you kind of find a scripture to read, and you write a sermon. Like, that's a week, maybe a 2 week long process that it takes to write a sermon, pray about it, that type of thing. Like, how do you do that, preach those sermons, and then just like that, you kind of change your mind? So I think this guy is I don't think black consciousness is killing the church. I just think that sometimes I think as Christians, our Christianity can be very weak. And so because of that, our desire to be black and conscious, or as we would say, woke, kind of takes over and kind of, I wouldn't say pushes our Christianity out the door, but it kind of, if you're thinking, it kind of pushes our Christianity into the periphery of our life, and we kind of become, instead of becoming Christians who happen to be black, we become black people who just happen to be Christians. And so our Christianity kind of gets thrown in the periphery of life, unfortunately. So I guess what I'm saying is, no, I don't think black consciousness is killing the church. I just think that there's a fine line that needs to be walked, or that can be walked. And I think we're doing a bad job of doing that. I'm specifically talking about Christians, not necessarily anybody else of any other religion, or anybody who doesn't claim any religion. But that's my thoughts on that.
Yes. I just want to say I enjoy the conversation that's going on, the different perspectives here, and let me bring my unique perspective in here as well. I think consciousness as it is currently constructed, black consciousness, I'm just taking this off of the video and people that I've seen on Facebook and Twitter and everything. I think that consciousness and the present people that make up the black consciousness, the black consciential thought leaders right now, I'm not going to call them out. Some of you are going to hear what I say and know exactly who I'm talking about. So I don't really like calling people out by name unless they truly deserve it. But I think that, you know, as it's presently constructed, I think a lot of people are ignorant of the history of Christianity and consciousness, as Trey so eloquently pointed out, the fact that Martin Luther King was one of the most conscious leaders we ever had. He led the most successful black empowerment movement ever, maybe next to Marcus Garvey, even though, Garvey didn't really live to see his thing, as he was killed and assassinated as well. But, and his consciential movement, MLK's, was based squarely on what the Bible says. And so I've read the letters from a Birmingham jail. We've all had the sermons on Martin Luther King. We've all delved into it from elementary school to college. We're all well versed on MLK. We know that. But I think that a lot of times people are very ignorant of the history of Christianity, and the fact of, I think what a lot of people look at when it comes to Christianity, not people here, but what some people do is they just take it from slavery. They think Christianity just started in slavery, and they're ignorant of the history that Christianity was around during Julius Caesar. Yes, Christianity didn't become really big in Europe until Augustus Caesar came in and said Christianity is our new religion and everything else. And he as the man talked about in the video, the Council of Nicaea, when he canonized the books and made Christianity the official religion of Rome and everything. Most people are ignorant of that history. They think that, that's where that the Bible didn't happen. It was a lot of times when I talk to people, they'll say, oh, the Council of Nicaea, Constantine made it all up. Christianity isn't real. Even the guy in the video, he was talking about how he talked about the Noah verse. Now, we all know about Noah and everything. And what I found completely ignorant about his statement is he was saying, how come there's no record of a big flood? I'm just like, bull, you read the Bible. You're a pastor. You understand why there is no record of a flood. Because the only people, because I believe the flood didn't happen. I think most of us believe the flood happened. Because the Bible says that everybody, except for two of a kind as far as animals and Noah's family, the only people that could have recorded that a flood happened was Noah. And Noah's people were left to repopulate the earth and everything else. It's also been proven, and I got this stat from a friend actually. They've had 23,000 archaeological digs, and all 23,000 archaeological digs confirm a lot of things that happened in the Bible. Like they found the pool where Jesus spit on the guy, spit in the dirt, rubbed it in the guy's eye, and he could see again. They actually found that pool, and they found where Jesus actually did that at. So, just confirming what Trey said, they've done 23,000 at presently. Now that was a stat from 2 years ago. That was 2014. So just imagine the more archaeological digs they've done that have actually confirmed the Bible. So the Bible is true. There's been archaeological digs that have confirmed it, for those of you who say, oh, the Bible is just a fairy tale and everything. So I feel, and going along with what Matt and Tristiani has said as well, you do walk this fine line as an African American, especially if you're a Christian and you want to be conscious, because you do find yourself saying, well, God, Jesus, when he was here, when he was a revolutionary, he wanted to care about the people being undervitalized and underused. And African Americans right now, we're in a very trying time as a people, where the criminal justice system isn't really well, to some people, and this is why I do agree with conscious people, they say the criminal justice system is doing exactly what it's supposed to do, protecting the people in power, and devaluing the people who are not in power. So some people will call it the injustice system. So and so you definitely do. So getting to the question at hand, I don't think consciousness is killing the church, but I do think as it's presently constructed, consciousness right now is not helping. It's like Christianity and consciousness are like right now, instead of what it used to be historically, they're at odds a little bit. Because you have people that are all like, I don't need no Bible. The Bible was just a tool of the white man to keep us down and everything, which is historically true when it came to America and Africa and the missionaries and everything. So it is true. But as I've said, the Bible is very empowering. One of our greatest, as I said, conscious leaders was MLK. You can't find anybody more conscious on a conscious level than him. Maybe James Baldwin. That's about it. The man who said to be conscious is to be angry all the time. That was James Baldwin. But to me, I think consciousness of Christianity should go back to its roots where they were both one and the same and they had the same goals. So I'm going to let you guys have your final thoughts on it and then we'll move on. So we can go right down the line. If not, we can move on. Johnny, if you got something to say, you can.
I'll try to make this one quick on this one, but I'll say this though, it's real quick. Like we have to understand that the church has to be very sensitive to the evolving needs of the people. And right now, this is literally the 50s and the 60s all over again. Only with social media in immediate news. And I think, is it killing the church? No. But the needs of the church has evolved so that I think it hasn't caught up yet. So with that being said, the church itself has to evolve has to be more conscious about what's going on in the community as far as us as a people is concerned, and let people know, look, the Bible, this is what the Bible says. Even though you may not agree with it right now, but trust, like, we've been through this before. So the needs of the people has evolved over time, and that part needs to be addressed.
Go ahead, Tristiana. You had something to say.
I'm actually going to piggyback off of that. I think that there are a lot of issues in the church, and we can't blame consciousness for it. But I think that we're talking about this fine line, and it is really difficult to sort of walk. And I know when I was abroad on my missions trip, it was very interesting to me to kind of be able to peer back into the lens of America and American racism and the way that Black America is treated, and kind of having that opportunity to take a step back and look at it kind of from that perspective of as a Christian who is Black, not a Black person who happens to be Christian, which I think is how a lot of Black people tend to operate, especially right now. And having had that opportunity, it's been interesting reintegrating into the States and kind of being here day to day, and really understanding what that line looks like. And I think one of our issues is that people don't have that perspective of what that line really looks like, because they're in it every day. And when you're battling with something each and every day, it can be kind of hard to really see it fully. And unless you've had the opportunity to really be grounded in your faith, it can be tough to kind of choose God. And I think there's a temptation there to not align ourselves as closely with God in this walk as we should. And I personally, it's something that I personally struggle with all the time. So, yeah.
Okay. I like the final thoughts. I'm going to sum this up very well. As I've said, We all walk the fine line, as Tristiania pointed out, as Trey pointed out, as Matt pointed out. We walk the fine line. The church does have its issues. So does the Black conscious community as well. Everybody has the issue, and we're walking this fine line where consciousness and Christianity, as Matt so eloquently pointed out, we're going back to the 60s and 70s with social media, but also we have this fine line where people just, with the way technology is and with the way knowledge flows around, people are rightly asking questions, and the church has to be prepared to answer these questions, and the conscious community has to be prepared for the pushback that comes when you say, "Oh, yo, I used to be a preacher and everything, and I say the Bible is corny and it's not real and everything." When you say stuff like that, and this is just a video, we're not talking about all of you conscious people. You should be ready for the pushback that's going to come with, as Trey pointed out. Did you ever really believe? Were you just faking this? Were you just putting on an act? And so, like I said, consciousness of Christianity, as I've said, Martin Luther King was the most conscious African American on this planet. He was a pastor. He was Christian. He believed everything. He's had the most successful movement. I've said on this podcast before that we lost our unity and everything else when they shot Martin Luther King. And people brought up Malcolm X, and I didn't get a chance to talk about this, but I tell people all the time, what Malcolm X are you talking about? Are you talking about the Malcolm X who was Detroit Red / Elijah Muhammad's puppet? I know people are going to be like, he was never Elijah Muhammad's puppet. But if you actually pay attention and you read his biography, he tells you in his biography that he was indebted to Elijah Muhammad. Elijah Muhammad was his mentor, so he took on the role of Elijah Muhammad. He was the number 2 in the Nation of Islam. And then he went to Mecca, got the real Islam, the unadulterated truth of Islam, and Malcolm X came back a different man. Everybody knows that. This is well documented. He went away from his more violent ways, his Detroitness and everything else that he was. And as he became more peaceful, that's when he became a problem. And that's when the people decided that it was time to shoot him. Just like with Martin Luther King, he was bringing people together, and they decided to shoot him and get rid of him. I'm not going down any conspiracy theories. Like I said, this is well documented. You can read the biography. You can watch the movie. There's clues in the movie and everything else when it comes to Malcolm X. And I'm just going to close it down here. I'm going to end it like I started it. Consciousness and Christianity are one and the same. It needs to go back to what it was. Everyone needs to recognize that consciousness is about Black empowerment. Christianity is about empowerment of everybody, but it also should be about empowerment of the people who are most getting it the hardest right now in America, which is the African American people. And the African American community is definitely not put as the number one priority when it comes to Christianity as well. And it's a very enlightening and very complicated topic. But we're going to move on and get to the sports, and I'm going to let our DC native give us our DC sports update, so she can talk about her Redskins, talk about her Wizards. Go ahead, Tristy.
Well, there's not a whole lot to say, honestly. So we are moving into wild card weekend, which, the Redskins had every opportunity to join, and they're not playing. Just watching them fall apart over the last 4 weeks. Not that they were ever really together, but some games that were very winnable that they needed, and they played with no urgency, and so they're sitting at home, and rightfully so. I'm not one of those fans who is going to sit here and protect them because, I'm supposed to be a diehard fan. And the only way to be a diehard fan is to sugarcoat it. They didn't want to be in the playoffs, so they're not. I think that team needs to make some changes. I think Kirk Cousins blew his shot to get that franchise contract that he was looking for, because he didn't lead his team the way that a franchise quarterback leads his team. It's all on your back at the end of the day. When teams that are going places lose, blame the quarterback, and he didn't pull his weight. Had the opportunity to drive down the field and win the game and threw an interception, which is in a lot of ways very typical of what I've seen of him in those pressure situations. I'm excited to see what kind of changes are going to come to the team. Looking forward to getting a new defensive staff in there to ramp up the defense. Had some conversations with friends. Just the team is not fun to watch. They haven't been solid, pretty much my entire life, but they at least used to be fun to watch, and I haven't had fun watching this team lately. So, looking forward to seeing something different from them, hopefully next season. And guess we're looking forward to being at home with the Eagles.
There you go. That's the DC. Whoa. Sorry, y'all. Sorry. That's the DC wrap up right there. Hitting on to kick a Redskins fan while they're down. Hate to do that, but we're both. It's not like the Eagles have much to say. They're at the bottom of the division, as Tristiani pointed out before and after this before and during this podcast. But at least we're not the Redskins, or as Matt refuses to call them by their name. So that team from DC that really plays in Maryland and shouldn't be called the DC Redskins, but that's another topic for another day. Like she said, Kirk Cousins blew. I didn't even really think about that. Kirk Cousins really did blow his shot, and I'm surprised the coach has his job. I don't care if his last name's Gruden. He shouldn't have a job. That's 2 years in a row that his team then quit on him. And anybody else, I can tell you this because the Eagles did it. The Eagles didn't care that Chip Kelly won 10 straight games. His worst season, just like Andy Reid, the team went 4-something, and they fired him. Coaches have been fired for much less, and I am very surprised that Jay Gruden still has a job after he basically destroyed RG3. He did what Mike Shanahan and his coaching staff were trying to do, but he did it in a lot faster process. He destroyed RG3. Most owners side with the quarterback, especially one that they lobbied to get. But it was kind of funny watching that. But to me, Jay Gruden should be fired. Yeah, I said it, and I'm not a DC fan, but I've lived in DC, so I understand that DC fans, they have nothing else. It's literally the Capitals, the team from Washington. Sometimes it's the Wizards, but it's mostly the Redskins, and this is coming from somebody who's from Philadelphia. We're diehard.
Don't forget the Nats. Don't forget the Nationals.
Yep, the Nationals too. And I can tell you, I've never seen a town, and I was born in Philadelphia, that cares more about their football team than the Redskins. There are people that live and die by what the Redskins do. And that team has disappointed DC, the DMV area forever. It's to a point now where I just want them to be the team that plays at Maryland like it being a Maryland team, so DC can get its own team that will do it way more justice.
That's called Baltimore.
Maryland already has a team, yeah. They got the Baltimore Ravens, so.
It doesn't matter. They can have another one. The New York has two teams. Y'all can have one too. Y'all basically do have two teams, the Ravens and the Skins. But they are terrible. They deserve what they got. I know owners won't fire themselves, as by Jed York earlier this week when somebody asked him would he fire himself. But Dan Snyder needs to do something and fire himself. Like, if he doesn't fire the coach, if he keeps this team as presently constructed with just a new defensive coordinator, it's not going to work. That team sucks. And this is coming from an Eagles fan. I appreciate competition. And right now, only competition the Eagles really have in that division, even though they're in their fourth and the standings, people would say, I'm wrong, but I'm going to tell you something. As an Eagles fan, as Giants and fans will tell you, nobody takes the Redskins seriously. We know that they're going to choke. They choke more than the Cowboys. But DC could do so much better than the team that they have right now. But hey, the Wizards are on the winning streak as well. You have that. Trey's favorite point guard put up 18 points and 18 assists tonight, and they won against the Timberwolves. So I'm going to let the guys get in on this Redskins DC sports thing. So go ahead, Matt.
First of all, I hate Alex Ovechkin. Let's start there. I don't like the Caps, so that's number one. Nope. I'm a Flyers fan. I admit it. But I hate the Penguins more, so that's another thing. First of all, I'm glad that they fired their defensive coordinator. In fact, the Washington franchise is a joke. It's been talk about the Dallas Cowboys that were, as Stephen A. Smith pointed out, a piece of walking mediocrity. I mean, this Washington franchise is basically, how can I put this? It's Six Flags in Landover. That's all it is. I mean, Dan Snyder just cannot seem to stay out of his own way. I mean, the last time I seen this franchise this good, I gotta go back to Joe Gibbs era, first time around. That's where you gotta look back when there's some like real true success. With that being said, their defense, if you look at I think they're like the last 5 defenses in the league. It's deplorable. I mean, you're lucky for the fact that the Eagles could have won the game in Washington, but they did not. But that's neither here nor there. But the point is simply this: that franchise is in shambles. It is a PR nightmare for the National Football League. I mean, Dan Snyder needs to go somewhere and hide and don't come back, because frankly, as far as I'm concerned, this franchise needs an upgrade. I mean, they're not consistent. Mr. You like that, I agree, probably has lost a shot as becoming the franchise quarterback, but at the same time, who are you on the draft? There's no quarterbacks out coming out that right now is like a must-have. So you're stuck with them right now for another, year or two? So you're stuck with them. And with that being said, look, if you were to rank who's the best team in Washington right now, the Redskins are dead last. That's in my opinion. I mean, number 3 is probably I want to say the Bullets. Oof, I'm getting old. The Caps, and I'm throwing the Nationals, because they're still one of the best teams in the National League East in baseball. But I got checked up. I got to figure out what they're doing in the offseason. But as far as they're the closest. The Nationals are the closest thing to a championship right now. Not the Caps, in my opinion. And the Wizards, I know Trey. I know John Wall's your man, but I'm sorry. I'm not either build around that man now or trade him. That's what I feel about Washington. And as far as I'm concerned, that Redskin franchise needs to like blow it up right now. We'll take Deshaun Jackson. Y'all don't need him. Blow the franchise up because frankly, defense sucks. Your front office is in shambles, and you're the joke of the National Football League. Not the y'all with the it's like there's the Browns and the Jags, and then there's the Washington franchise. Sorry, but I'm not sorry.
I agree with y'all about the Redskins to a point. Unfortunately, I think Kirk Cousins will be our quarterback of the future, just because of the nature of the organization. I think if you were to compare like organizations in terms of like the GM, the owner, that type of thing, like Washington is just as mess as like Cleveland or even San Diego is. So from that standpoint, like Washington is in a bad place offensively. Like I mean, they're not that bad offensively. Kirk Cousins actually has had two. If you look at his overall stats, he's actually had 2 great years. I think last year he put up something like 28 touchdowns, only 10 interceptions. This year he had, I think, 26 and only 12 interceptions. In both years, I think he had about 5 rushing touchdowns. So that's over 30 total touchdowns 2 years in a row. I'm not a Washington fan. I'm an Eagles fan, but those are the facts. The issue is the organization in terms of the higher ups are, just terrible. Like I can't even. It's unspeakable. And then secondly, defense is it's just trash. But I agree with Matt on the fact that the Wizards, or excuse me, the Redskins are probably the worst team in Washington. Maybe you throw the Wizards in 4th place. I don't know about that, but I don't know. It's if the Wizards are bad, excuse me, I keep saying Wizards. If the Redskins are bad, that puts the Eagles in a better situation. So hey, and like I think it was Matt or Colin, whoever said, we all know that the rest. If you think about the rest of the division, the Giants and the Cowboys, and as well as the Eagles, really don't go into the Redskins games. Within the last couple of years, the Redskins have actually, I believe they won the season series this year. I believe they won the season series last year. I remember if you go back to the first year that Donovan McNabb was on the Redskins, I think they won that season series. If not, we split the season series. But I don't mind the Redskins being bad. Like Colin was saying, let's kick the Redskins fan watch this down. But I guess, and I'll throw my other little piece in there. It's not funny that we're talking about Washington because last week we were talking about top point guards, and I was talking about John Wall. So I give y'all that. Y'all got at least the top 5 point guard in the league. But that's all my little thoughts on Washington.
All right. I'll say it. I'm trolling here, and y'all can unmute y'all mics. I'm about to say something that y'all probably all gonna laugh at. But the best 2 teams in DC are, and this is the tie. It's gonna be just like Philadelphia, right? This is a tie. Like the best 2 teams. This is tie for number 1. The best 3 teams in Washington are the Capitals. In 3rd place is the Nationals.
I disagree.
And the 2 best teams in DC are wait a minute, y'all, are the Capitals and the Georgetown Hoyas.
Wow.
Can I
Hey,
shoot you?
I agree with that. Georgetown Warriors are definitely the best team in DC. I agree with that.
No qualms. No qualms.
Baseball season haven't started yet. We're at 40 days till spring training, and you forgot about the Nationals. I mean, geez, their pitchers.
I said in third place the Nationals, and then
But you have to
Yeah, no, that's wrong.
look at their pitching staff. You had Matt Scherzer, for crying out loud, and he was mowing the competition down. I mean, yeah, they kind of fell apart. It fell apart in the last part of the season, but geez, look at the body of work of the Nationals. You got and they're hitting all cylinders. Bryce Harper. I mean, it's one of the most complete lineups in the National League. Are you telling me the Nationals are third? I mean, come on now. I understand baseball's in the offseason right now, and I love baseball as much as the next person in line, but geez, if you look at the National League East, in my opinion, as of right now, is literally Washington. Oh, I can't believe Washington, the New York Mets, the Florida Marlins, the Philadelphia Phillies, and the Atlanta Braves. I don't want to hear that mess.
That is just a joke. like I want to be serious. I obviously know the Nationals are good. Like I said, they're one of the top 3 teams in Washington. Yeah, I could have worded that better, but I was just making a joke that probably kind of like what happened here in the Illidale, the team
My bad.
that's going to bring us a championship, that's going to bring DC a championship sooner than all their professional teams, will probably be the Georgetown Warriors. Nationals are choke artists themselves. They've had the best record since we're on there. I might as well go down the rabbit hole. They've had the best arm forever. They have what's the man's name who's always injures his arm somehow?
Strasburg, yeah.
Yeah, they have Strasburger. He's been their best pitcher before they got Scherzer, but his arm's been bad. And like I obviously know that the Nationals are good. They have Bryce Harper, who's like the second best player, not named Mike Trout in baseball. So you know. By the way, because of that bromance, I'm breaking news even though it hasn't happened yet. Because of that bromance with Carson Wentz, Trout is coming home to Philadelphia, even though he's from New Jersey. I'm calling it now. He's going to be a Philadelphia Philly in the near future. I'm just going to say that now. Sorry, LA fans. We're taking your player. But yeah. Jokes aside, we're going to move on to our next topic. We're going to save our last hot topic, our last hot take for the end of the show. Moving right along. So, guys, the Rose Bowl happened. Penn State and USC. Now, there are no Penn Staters among us right now. We've all go to different colleges, and some of us currently attend college. So there are no Penn Staters in the building, but as 2/3 of this group are Pennsylvanians, we want to send our condolences to all the Penn State fans who lost a heartbreaker to USC and their dabbing kicker. We are Penn State forever. Even though I haven't gone there, I have a lot of friends and family that went there. And at least you're back. Congratulations to USC and the US faithful, and the USC faithful. You really did fight on, and I turned that game off because I thought USC couldn't come back. I forgot what I was watching. It's college football. I forgot what I was watching. And so, I was quite surprised to wake up and see that USC won on a last-minute field goal because the Penn State quarterback pulled a Kirk Cousins and an Eli Manning and get intercepted during the last few minutes of the game. But whatever. I think we can go right down the line. So go ahead, Matt.
Just to let you know, as a self-respecting South Carolina native, where I'm from, we are the real USC. Just to give you, just to pretty much clear that out the air. With that being said, I was shocked. I thought Penn State was going to win this game. I really did shocked that they would win this game, and it was a good game nonetheless. And it, momentum is a very precious thing, particularly in college football. So I mean, it was a good game. It was a very good game. It was an epic game nonetheless. Which to me, I know it's probably we'll talk about this later down the road. This is the reason why Penn State should have been in the playoff. I will make that argument. I will continue to make that argument because Ohio State did not show up. They just did. But we digress. But from what I saw bits and pieces of it. But for Penn State to let USC back in the game, to let them back in the game was not good. It was not good for them. But from the way I looked at it, it was an epic game nonetheless. It was back and forth. It had everything. But for the most part, as a former Penn State fan, it is heartbreaking to see you lose the granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl. And like I said before, it was a good game nonetheless. So that's my take on it. Time's yours.
Go ahead, Trey.
Let me get my thoughts together. But hold on, guys. Sorry.
All right. I'll go with my thoughts. For those of you that are watching this and listening, there's a female contributor up in here. We're not skipping her. She told me before this podcast, and disclaimer here because I don't want anybody to hear this and think that she's being skipped or anything. Before this podcast, earlier discussions, she's not. Tristiani isn't as versed on college football and pro basketball. So, if you don't hear her for the rest of, there are a lot of basketball and pro football discussions. She will definitely be more vocal, as you've heard, on the DC and the football because we're getting to that. So I don't want you guys to think that we're skipping her in any way. She told me before that she'll be silent on those. Go ahead, Trey.
Sorry about that, guys. But yeah, I didn't watch the whole game, but I did watch. I watched a good portion of the first half, and it frustrated me because I don't go to Penn State, but I do like Penn State, and I've enjoyed watching Penn State ever since when they had I can't think of the quarterback, but even before the whole Sandusky thing. But when I saw the score, 49-35, I continued to watch. I watched like the whole fourth quarter essentially. I was like, okay, Penn State. We got another team in Philly, or not really in Philly, but another team in PA that is primed to do something, or possibly bring another championship to PA, albeit a college championship. Because barring whether or not Saquon Barkley decides, I'm not sure if he can declare for the draft this year or not. But barring him staying at Penn State and not going to the draft, this team has a ton of potential to really do some damage next year. But I was disappointed. The quarterback, he had, I think, before this last game, the Rose Bowl, I think he had only thrown something like 4 or 5 picks, and I think he ended up throwing 3, 2 in the first quarter, And then he threw that one last crucial pick that set up the last second USC, the I'll say University of South Carolina, since Matt is listening, or not University of South Carolina, University of South California. They set up the last second field goal, and USC wins the game. But USC should have never been in that position in the first place. And to be honest with you, I really think it was the defense, Penn State's defense, kind of let down the team. Like, I mean, if you're up 49-35, that's 2 touchdowns with, I think it was something like 7 minutes, a little less than 8 minutes left in the game, and you end up losing the game by a field goal. Like, that's 17 points right there that you gave up in the fourth quarter in about 8 minutes. So I was very disappointed to see them lose. But it's funny because I remember when we were talking about the kind of the importance of bowl games. Like, to be honest with you, I don't think that game means much for Penn State because we all know that the quarterback, I can't think of his name, is going to be their quarterback next year. We know we've got, Penn State knows, James Franklin knows that they have a great running back in Saquon Barkley, and they've got a team to build around. Defensively, they've had some promise. Obviously, the defense kind of let them down in the fourth quarter, but it's funny that we were talking about bowl games because, like, this bowl game probably didn't really mean much going forward for them. It's not like, if they lose this game, like, James Franklin loses his job. Like, next year, they're probably going to be a top 5 team again. This year, they were almost in the top 4. Probably should have been in the playoff. So, like, that's just crazy to think about. But other than I did not watch any other bowl games. The only reason I watched that game was because Penn State was playing. I wanted to see what they would do. Would they live up to that number 5 ranking and prove that maybe they should have been in the playoff, or would they fall flat? Now, I don't think they really fell flat, but they did disappoint and lose that game to, albeit a good USC team, but they lost a game that they probably should have won. Other than that, there weren't any other bowl games that I wanted to see or was like really looking forward to. Both of the semifinal playoff games were blowouts, and just as we thought, Clemson, and we're gonna have a rematch of last year's championship game, Clemson versus Alabama. So I mean, like, what was there to see, unless you had specific interest in one team, that you're a fan of? I'm a huge Florida fan. I didn't even care about the Florida-Iowa game. Like, who cares? I think that was that wasn't the Fiesta Bowl. The Fiesta Bowl was, I think, the Clemson game. I can't even think of the name of the bowl. Like, again, that's how, like, unimportant these bowl season has become because of the playoff. And even the playoff games, which are actually bowl games, they were very lackluster. But I'm rambling right now, so I guess I'll leave it at that.
Yes. I've got some Rose Bowl. I wrote a very good article. I know. I plug my articles all the time, but there's no better time than the present. I wrote a very good article on the Rose Bowl.
I'll co-sign that. You did write a very good article on the Rose Bowl.
Thank you, Tristiana. Thank you. We were talking about the Rose Bowl, and a lot of people lost in all the glitz and glamour, as I pointed out in the article. Lost in all the glitz and glamour of the Rose Bowl is the fact that we have 2 teams that were both just recently got off of sanctions. Penn State had the Sandusky sanctions, which a lot of people in the heat of the moment back then, a lot of people, thought those sanctions were justified. But then when you look at the facts of the case and see that those kids 4 years ago, in my estimation now, before I say this, before I hit everyone with this hot take, let me say this. I say this all the time when we talk Penn State and we go here, that child molestation is wrong. What Sandusky did was horrible, heinous, deviant, all that stuff that goes with this. And in no way do I, and I will speak for everybody else, support child molestation. So when I say this is just my opinion and everything. Penn State got essentially a death penalty for something that had nothing to do with football. Yes, with the team. Now, he did work for the team. Joe Paterno knew. Everybody in the administration of that presidency knew as well. And they were all rightfully punished. But the football program was basically given a death penalty. And to see that those seniors decided to stick it out. 4 years. Lost 3.5 years to sanctions. And just recently got out of the Sandusky sanctions. It's a testament to not only James Franklin, but Bill O'Brien too, because James Franklin is basically going to the Rose Bowl with Bill O'Brien's players that he brought in, that he kept, that he taught to believe despite the sanctions. And to Penn State's credit, they never suffered a losing season during their sanctions. And this was the first year they were off sanctions and able to participate in the playoffs in the bowl season in 4 years since 2012. And they made it to the Rose Bowl. That's great. And then USC, they had their own thing with Pete Carroll and deflated footballs. Actually, most people don't know that. I point this out in my article, that, USC actually had the original Deflategate, and that's why Pete Carroll got out of there. It was not only the Reggie Bush stuff, but Pete Carroll left because they found out that USC was playing with deflated balls. Maybe that's where Tom Brady and them got the idea from, It's a known fact that Pete Carroll and Bill Belichick were on the same staff. Who knows? Maybe they share some conversations about deflated footballs. Who knows? Just a joke here, guys. Don't attribute that to me. Don't attribute that to me. And USC, they attributed to their fight on. I know Matt says the real USC is the University of South Carolina, but they attributed to their fight on spirit by fighting on both schools, and they made it to the Rose Bowl. They won a Rose Bowl. USC hasn't been in the Rose Bowl since they lost to Texas in 2004. So, they actually were able to come out with a Rose Bowl and win. And it's a consolation prize because I feel both teams should have made it in over Ohio State. It's a testament. And that was a great game. As we said, bowls don't really matter, but that still is the Mecca. That's the Super Bowl of bowls, right, in college football. And I'm going to close it down with that. And real quick, since we're here, we'll do our national championship pick. I'm going with Clemson, as I said in previous podcasts. Deshaun Watson stand up. Deshaun Watson is healthy. And last year he killed Alabama with a bad hamstring. Good hamstrings. I really just think that a mobile black quarterback will be the death of Nick Saban's defense. Guys, give your predictions. You don't have to say opinions. I'm going to say Clemson. Go ahead. Tristan, if you want to jump in. I know you're not really versed in college football, but it's Clemson, Alabama.
Yeah. I'm gonna go Alabama. I would love to see Clemson win, just as an ACC grad. But I'm gonna go with Alabama, just from what I've seen, in past years. Haven't really watched them this year, but that's my pick.
I hate Clemson with a passion, so I'm taking Alabama. Sorry. So I hate Clemson as a Gamecock fan. I cannot I cannot go for Clemson, so I'll take Alabama on this one.
I'm going with Clemson, but Colin, you've got to remember, Nick Saban now, or Alabama now has their own mobile quarterback in Jalen Hurts. Now, I don't think he's nowhere near the same level as Deshaun Watson, and that's why I think Alabama is going to pull it out, possibly in blowout fashion, actually, because I think Deshaun Watson he's got, like you said, he's got 2 healthy hamstrings, and I think Clemson's defense is much better than it was last year. They got a lot of playmakers on defense, including their cornerback, what is his name? Tre'Davious Barkley or whatever, who I think the Eagles should draft, but that's another point. I think Clemson takes it. Maybe not. When I say blowout, I don't mean blowout, but I think Clemson takes it something like 31-17, that type of score.
All right. Well, moving right along, we're going to go to our next topic. Since we're on football anyway, let's talk playoffs. You know, we have the wild card weekend this weekend. Starts off with Houston. Houston's playing somebody. Starts off with Houston. Houston and is it Miami?
I think it's Miami, yeah.
Yeah, Houston and Miami. We'll start there. We'll start with our predictions for the weekend. So y'all go ahead. Matter of fact, I'll start. I think I love Miami, but I think Miami takes it. I'm going with and I don't necessarily know who's playing each other on the AFC side. I'm more well versed on the NFC side, but I'm still gonna say Steelers and Raiders. And if the Raiders and Steelers end up playing each other, and I'm wrong on this, then I'll just say Steelers.
Hold on. The Raiders are playing the Texans.
Okay.
The Steelers are playing the Dolphins.
Good. Okay. Then my pick stand. Thank you, Tristan. Like I said, I'm not well versed on who's playing in the AFC. So I'll start with the ones I'm more well versed on the NFC. I'm going with the Packers over the Giants. So Packers Cowboys in a rematch. And I'm going to go on the other side. I'm going to go with Seahawks. So Seahawks, Atlanta, Packers, Cowboys. Yeah. I'm right on that. Seahawks, Atlanta, Packers. No, Seahawks, Cowboys, Packers, Atlanta. So that's what I'm going with on the NFC side. On the AFC side, as I've said, Steelers, Raiders. I guess by default. I guess I gotta take Houston by default. No. Tristan, who is it? Who's playing?
The Raiders are playing the Texans.
Okay, so Raiders, Steelers, and the Super Bowl pick, as I already mentioned on this show. I hate saying it, but I'm gonna have to say it again. I'm gonna pick Patriots. No, I don't. I've redone my pick. Patriots and Seahawks in a rematch in the Super Bowl. Go ahead, Tristan.
All right, so I'm gonna go with the Raiders, and the Steelers on the AFC side, and then NFC, I'm gonna go Seahawks, Giants over Green Bay. And then Super Bowl, I'm going Pats, Falcons, just because I think the Falcons have kind of flown under the radar a little bit with all this Cowboys talk. But I think that they'll come out on top. That's it for me.
This is what I have. Oakland is going to beat Houston. Pittsburgh will beat Miami. As far as the NFC is concerned, you have I think think Green Bay's gonna beat the Giants. I really think so because Aaron Rodgers is on a roll and you're playing in Green Bay. So that's one thing right there. Seattle, if Detroit pulls it out, go right ahead. But I don't see that's gonna happen because you're in Seattle. You're the 12th man, and their defense is phenomenal. And the way right now, I don't think honestly they can handle the Legion of Boom. So I got the Seahawks in that one. As far as Super Bowl is concerned, I can't do it. I can't do it. It's going to be New England and the Dallas Cowboys. Tom, yours.
But before you go, Trey, blasphemy. The Cowboys won't make it. Blasphemy. Go ahead, Trey.
Well, I guess I have a little blasphemy for me too. But I think it's going to be Raiders will beat the Texans. I think Matt McGloin is going to come out and play well, but I don't think that's enough to get them past the Steelers. So I think we'll beat the Dolphins. And then, and then on the NFC side, I think the Packers, like Matt said, like Aaron Rodgers is on fire right now. To be honest with you guys, I was not a believer in the Packers and their ability to make playoffs. I thought they were going to end up, I thought the Lions were going to take the division and the Packers were kind of going to fade off. But that didn't happen. Aaron Rodgers caught fire. Really starting with that game against the Eagles. It's funny how stuff like that happens. Packers beat the Giants, and Seattle beats Detroit. As far as Super Bowl is concerned, I want to stick with my original Super Bowl pick, but I'm not sure if I want. So I'll say my original Super Bowl pick was Chiefs Cowboys. Yes, Cowboys. Unfortunately, because they are. I mean, as much as I dislike the Cowboys, they are the best team in the NFC. Seattle does have a great defense, but they do not have home field advantage, and the Cowboys do. So, and we all know how Seattle plays away from home. So if it were to come down to a Cowboys Seattle's, I think that's possible. Cowboys Seahawks NFC Championship. I think the Cowboys pull that out. On the other end, I think the Chiefs are another one of those teams that have flown under the radar. They're very solid on both sides of the field. They're a little bit limited on offense, but that's my super. I think it's either going to be Chiefs. It's either going to be Chiefs, Cowboys, or Patriots, Cowboys. And Lord, oh my goodness, you don't know how much I hope the Cowboys do not win the Super Bowl because, oh my goodness, the outrage. Oh Lord, have all the Cowboys fans at Stronghold. Oh my goodness, I don't know if I can handle it. I might just leave Stronghold, I might become a black person who just happens to be Christian, But those are my picks.
I hope you guys are wrong about the Cowboys thing because not only will the Cowboys stronghold be out of control, but they will have so many new bandwagon fans. They've already gained 1 million, and it'll be even worse if they win the Super Bowl. So,
I will say this though, and this is the Dallas Cowboy fan base is by far the worst fan base in the National Football League. True story. You got fans in South Carolina, and mind you, Panther games run amok down there. It's all 16 games, but for some stupid reason, you have Cowboy fans down there, and it drives me nuts. And I hope and pray they don't win. They do not win the Super Bowl, because if they do, my Facebook feed will be so flooded and inundated with Cowboy nonsense. I got Grey Goose bottle in my room right now. I have not opened yet. I hope and pray I do not open that bottle yet, just to contain the nauseating nonsense that I'm going to hear from Cowboy Nation. I hope the Patriots do what they do best: dismantle teams. That's all I have to say on that one.
Now listen, guys. I know it's my final take, but I don't think we need to worry about the Cowboys. I think everyone saw what the Eagles did to the Cowboys, and saw that the best way to get to the Cowboys is to blitz the crap out of Dak Prescott because he still can't handle it. Even in the little showing that he showed, y'all making me show my hand before it's time. In the Eagles game, even though the Cowboys fans will say it didn't count. He's shown that he can't handle the blitz, and I think if it winds up being in the NFC Championship game, winds up being what I think it'll be, Seahawks versus Cowboys, I definitely think that Pete Carroll will have something for Dak Prescott. I think Richard Sherman will keep, will keep Dez Bryant in check. And I don't think the Seahawks defense will fold like the Steelers defense folded when they gave the Cowboys a chance to come back and just opened up a gap like they were separating the Red Sea for Ezekiel Elliott to run through and score at the last minute. That's my thoughts on the Cowboys and how far they'll go. Because, guys, the person who's going to really have a heart attack if the Cowboys ever win the Super Bowl is Stephen A. Smith because of the trash he's been talking on the Cowboys. So let's all hope, for our sake and his, that they don't go anywhere. And moving right along to our next topic, which is this, going along with, now we're on basketball again. The Greek Freak, Giannis, I'm gonna try not to butcher his last name, Antetokounmpo, the man who's basically Mr. Fantastic with how long his arms are. Lo and behold, the surprise of the 2016 to 2017 season, my man can play some basketball. He's He's becoming an elite player. What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about Giannis becoming an elite player? Go ahead, Matt.
I'm gonna pass off the clearance on this one first, so I'm gonna get Trey a call on this one.
Well, I think Giannis is going to be a very, very good player. And his nickname fits him very well. They call him the Greek Freak.
First thing to say, why did you garnish headline?
Because he's 6'11", but he has great handles. He has he has a very good basketball IQ, and ironically he's very because he's so long, he has the ability especially on fast breaks to just go up and dunk over somebody. I saw him. I think it was 2 nights ago. He came down on a fast break and took off, and he's 10 feet from the basket and kind of reached over the defender and dunked the ball. And I'm like, what in the world? But it's because he's so long. And I think Giannis, oh my goodness. So I think with that team, I think the question is, will Giannis and the rest of that team, Jabari Parker, Matthew Dellavedova, John Henson, Greg Monroe, those guys, will they be able to challenge the Cavs in the East? But Giannis is just such an intriguing. He's just such an intriguing basketball player. He's really a jump shot away from being the greatest player that ever lived. To be honest with you, he's very similar to Ben Simmons. Actually, I think Giannis is way more athletic than Ben Simmons, but they do have similar games. And I think Giannis has a better jump shot than Ben Simmons, but they do have very similar games. Giannis is about 6'11". Ben Simmons is, I think they list him at 6'10". But they're both very good passers. So I think it's funny because I think that might be, you might have that kind of be like the LeBron and the Kevin Durant of they'll be kind of like the LeBron and the Kevin Durant of their day. But so I'm looking forward to see what Giannis when his jump shot develops, what he can do with that Bucks team. And side note, in NBA 2K17, I actually got drafted by the Bucks, so he is officially one of my teammates.
Yeah. So Giannis Antetokounmpo, I'm gonna give my opinion since everyone's passing it off. I think he can be a good player. I agree with Trey. He's going to be a good player, and he's playing in Milwaukee, a place where it's basically Aaron Rodgers and the University of Wisconsin country. So they need a new star, and they have one now with Giannis Antetokounmpo, and he's doing it in Milwaukee. They haven't had a star since Ray Allen and Michael Redd. So, it's great for basketball that they have a star on the Milwaukee Bucks. It's great for them. And I'm very happy. I think he will be an elite player. He has the defense. He's the Greek freak, as Trey pointed out. He's freakish. He plays defense really well. They put him at point guard now. So really he's basically a nightmare because point guards are so much smaller compared to him. Jason Kidd, that team is going to be really good as long as they, give him some help. I know Greg Monroe's on that team, Jabari Parker. That's a good team right now. We'll see if they make the playoffs, but if they do, they could make some noise. Watch out. So we're gonna move right along past that one, and before we talk Sixers, we're gonna handle football one more time. We're gonna talk about our favorite, as Eagles fans, our favorite coach, Chip Kelly. But before we do that, I'm gonna let Tristiana, since she's far more removed from the situation than us, to talk about Chip Kelly's firing and what she thinks of it. And then I'll let Matt, Trey, and myself go in because, we're Eagles fans and you already know our feelings on Chip Kelly. Go ahead, Tris.
I'm trying to figure out what's going on with your boy Chip Kelly because he seems like he's struggling. Now, okay, so to be fair, I love Colin Kaepernick. He's like my favorite person ever. And I don't know, the 49ers just have fallen off real hard, off a cliff. And I know that I think their owner kind of has something to do with that, much like everyone's favorite Redskins owner. But they were 2-14 this year? Is that accurate? I don't know.
Yep. Yep. They were 2-14.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. I don't see where Chip has much of a future as a head coach. I don't know. I think our prompt was should he go back to college? I don't know if he needs to go all the way back there, but I don't think he needs to be anybody's head coach. I just don't know that he has the ability to lead a team well enough to take them all the way. I mean, the Eagles did all right at least one of those seasons he was there. But no, I'm not a big
fan. With Andy Reid's players, not his players.
Well, yes, no, it wasn't with the team he built, yeah. But no, I don't think he needs to be in charge of anybody's team. Long story short, not even at the college level.
All you, Matt.
I partially agree on the fact that his days as a National Football League head coach are over. I'm sitting here while you were talking. I was cracking up because of the fact of it's Chip Kelly. That's all it said. Look, when he took over the Eagle franchise in his first year, you just saw an Andy Reid offense go into hyperdrive. That's what we saw. An Andy Reid offense with Andy Reid players go into hyperdrive, and I'll admit, we all said Super Bowl. Punch my ticket, and we lost to New Orleans, and that was the end of that. As far as Chip Kelly is concerned, he should not be a head coach in the National Football League right now. College, maybe, but if he wants to stick around in the pro ranks, he needs to be offensive coordinator, nothing more. I mean, I believe he does have the offensive knack of the game. I do believe, but plus, if you look at the history of football, basically that no huddle offense that he runs is basically another version of the Marv Levy's K-gun offense. If you research that, and the K-gun offense is basically the hurry-up offense in which Chip Kelly was running. But the only difference between the K-gun offense and Chip Kelly's offense was the Bills had a defense. They had Bruce Smith. And with that being said, the San Francisco 49ers franchise is too like the Washington franchise and the Cleveland Browns in shambles. They have become a laughing joke because of Chip Kelly, and I think it could be wrong, but Balky's their general manager, which has now been removed. I think it is a good move for the 49ers. It is a good move in the fact that they can finally move on. And oh, by the way, the biggest mistake they ever made was the fact they fired which Harbaugh? John Harbaugh. And he's coaching in Michigan right now. That was mistake number one. You should never fired that man. And now you have this. And now you had I forgot the other guy's coach before Kelly, and that was a disaster. Now you go to Chip Kelly, and this is they're not. And the Niners weren't they're not a worse team. They're just a bad team. And Colin Kaepernick should have been the starting quarterback from day one. Bottom line. With that being said, should Chip Kelly go back to college? I said it last week. I said it again. Hell yeah, should go back to college because, frankly, the way you run the franchise ball team in the professional level, you can't run a college. You can't micromanage a football team like that. Just do your job. Worry about the X's and the O's of football. Don't worry about grown men's lives. We don't have time for that. I mean, you have the spotlight is bigger. The media is a lot more intensive versus college. So with that being said, he will do well in college. But if he wants to stay in the pro game, at the highest level, he needs to stay as an offensive coordinator. He will do well there versus, say, right now as a head coach. Because your first two seasons, you did okay, not bad. With Andy Reid players, you went 10-6. One of them you went to playoffs. The other one you didn't. And next thing you know, you bombed. And so with that being said, go back to college, but if you want to stay in the pro game, stay as an offensive coordinator. That's where I stand on that one. Trey?
I agree with y'all partially about Chip Kelly. I think if he stays in the NFL, he should be a offensive coordinator because clearly he knows how to coach offense. We didn't really see that as much this year just because the 49ers were so bad. And I think that had to do with a multitude of things. But we all know that Chip Kelly's offense is really a college offense, and that's why with Chip Kelly's player, LaShawn McCoy, Mike Vick, Jeremy Maclin, Deshaun Jackson, it really worked. But then when Chip kind of stuck his hand in the cookie jar and, started getting his own players, things didn't really work out. And that's because if you really know football and you look at, if you just kind of bring his offense down to the bare bones. It's very simple. It's a college game. You know, the drive starts out, you call a play. If you're going to go with no huddle, you run one play. Whatever happens, happens. Everybody gets to the line. They look back at the sidelines to see what call is going to be made, and they start the play. It's a college offense. And for that reason, I think that if he goes back to college, he will still be able to have success because his offense does work in college. You know, he can do all the things that he was trying to do in terms of off the field things, watching people's sleeping habits, their diets. He can do that with college players because they're kids. But once you get to the NFL and they're getting paid to do this, at that point, once you get to the NFL, you just can't be messing around with grown men's, like as Matt was saying, grown men's lives off the field. That doesn't make any sense. So I think if he stays in the NFL, as the highest he goes is an offensive coordinator. Now, I do think because there's kind of like this, I don't know what the word is, but there's a group of coaches that are kind of like, and one of them being included, Bill Belichick, that thinks Chip Kelly is actually a great football mind. And because of that, because of his potential to be maybe a good head coach, I'm not talking about the eye test. Clearly, what he's done hasn't worked in San Francisco, and clearly it didn't work in Philadelphia. But as an owner, you see Chip Kelly, and you're like, okay, we need a head coach, and so you pounce on it because you think, oh, well, it didn't work in Philly, it didn't work in San Francisco, so maybe it'll work here because we have this guy or we have this player, and he fits this. So that could very well happen. You could have a team that needs a head coach, and they're like, hey, and they call up Chip Kelly. Other than that, he's no more than offensive coordinator in the NFL. But he could very well go back to college to be successful. However, his offensive playbook is not fit to win a championship, and we saw that clearly in Oregon. He had a chance to win against Auburn in Cam Newton's junior or senior year, whatever year that was, and he fell short. The offense fell short. Ironically, I think they only put up something like 19 points in that game. So Chip Kelly is either an offensive coordinator in the NFL, possibly if there's a desperate organization that wants a head coach, maybe a head coach. But other than that, an offensive coordinator in the NFL, a head coach, a successful but non-championship winning college head coach.
Yeah, I think I agree with everyone. I think Chip Kelly, I think we kind of doomed Chip Kelly because last week we were talking about him before he even got fired. But as Matt pointed out, I think the doom of the 49ers was when they got rid of Jim Harbaugh, and they took him to Michigan and everything, and they kind of had a civil war there. And, Jed York and Trent Baalke kind of won out, but I guess in the end, it's Jim Harbaugh who's really laughing. He's in Michigan, and his former franchise is falling. They're laughing stocks. As far as Chip Kelly, I think what'll happen is Josh McDaniels probably leaving the Patriots after this season. I think he will become the offensive coordinator of the New England Patriots. Because I think Bill Belichick really appreciates him, and he'll get a chance to learn. And Bill Belichick is like the Nick Saban of the NFL. Now, he's not as bad as Nick Saban when it comes to treating people well. At least we don't hear about Bill Belichick and stuff with that. So I'm going to say that he's going to redeem himself by being the offensive coordinator with the Patriots, because the Patriots play that style of football. And Bill Belichick and Chip Kelly talk to each other all the time about what to do and everything. So I think he'll end up being a coordinator. I don't think he'll go to college just because of his pride won't allow him to go back to college. He's not like Nick Saban and all those people who fell at professional football and then they run back to college. His pride won't let him do that. And that's where I'm going to close this topic out at. Just real quick as we enter into our last couple of topics. I want to throw some plugs in here. The Crossover Podcast officially has a sister podcast, which happens on Thursday night. It is the Crossover Podcast presents Blurred Talk. That's our entertainment and pop culture focused podcast, and that takes place Thursdays at 8:00. We also have a Twitter now for PO1, and we're still like I said, big things in 2017. We added a new contributor, Tristiania. We thank her for her presence. And as we wrap this up, I just want to throw those plugs in there for things that you should definitely keep up with if you're a fan of this podcast or you listen later. So moving right along, it's time to talk about our beloved 76ers before we get into our final topic and then the hot take. So let's move through this topic real quick. So 76ers, what I want you guys to answer is Joel Embiid All-Star or not, and do you think Jahlil Okafor is going to be the odd man out with Nerlens Noel taking more of his starting time? And it came out that Jahlil is suffering through a hamstring injury right now. So I'll start. I definitely think Joel Embiid is an all-star. He's been playing really well. He's been very, very impressive, especially as a rookie, his rookie year. So I'm very happy with him, and I think he should be an all-star. I think he should get his date with Rihanna. if that's in case the crush that he wants to impress, then he should get his date with Rihanna. Is Jahlil Okafor the odd man out? No, I don't think he's the odd man out. I think they're testing out Noel, testing out his trade value, and I do think that by early February, before the All-Star break, you will see Nerlens Noel be traded probably to the Golden State Warriors because the Cavaliers just added Kyle Korver. So I think that the Warriors will play tick for tack and trade for Nerlens Noel because I think he's the most tradable big man that we have. The Sixers are doing well in the future, even though they're showing Ersan Ilyasova and Joel Embiid. That's proved to be a very good offensive lineup. I think that their best lineup is still the Xfinity Towers / Twin Towers. So go ahead, Matt. It's all you.
I'll say this. Well, as far as Okafor is concerned, I mean, I stand by this argument when I say that the Philadelphia 76ers aren't healthy. I mean, I've yet to see Ben Simmons on the course, so we don't know how that dynamic may work with him and Okafor on the floor. With that being said, he may be the odd man out, but at the same time, Nerlens' trade value may go up as well. And being shipped to Golden State is not a bad idea, but if you think about it, they got 3 X6ers. There'll be 3 X6ers over there, along with Mo Spates and Iggy over there. But this is a good situation to have. It's a good situation to have where you have a lot of big men on your roster. With that being said, also, is Embiid a all-star? Yeah, he's an all-star. I mean, his game screams all-star to me. He has taken the role as franchise player and ran with it. I mean, if you want to date Rihanna, that's on you. I mean, that's just my opinion. I mean, everybody in their mom wants Rihanna, but I'm cool with my Creole queen. So anyway, as far as Embiid being an all-star. Like I said, he is an all-star. He's taken the city by storm, in my opinion. And yes, he's hurt right now, but I also believe that this Philadelphia 76ers team is on target. I do think they may win 20 games this year. This is my opinion. But as of right now, we have yet to see this team at full capacity. And that's what Ben Simmons on the floor. So once Ben Simmons on the floor at full capacity and we see what this team really can do, then we can, then in my opinion, we can see, okay, maybe we do need to trade Nerlens or Okafor in order to either for draft picks or just a salary dump. So it's more of a, to me it's more of a wait and see approach. That's why I'm taking it. But as far as Okafor is concerned, but as for Embiid, you should build around him right now. That's my take on that one.
Go ahead, Trey.
I never really thought about it that way, Matt. But that's a good way to put it, Matt. Kind of a more wait and see approach. Because to be honest with you, that's probably a much better approach, and probably actually what the Sixers will do. They probably will not trade Nerlens Noel this year. To be honest, they probably want to wait and see. Okay, who plays? Is Ben Simmons, Jalil, and Joel on the floor at the same time work? Now Joel has a nice outside jumper, but that's really only when he has to be essentially wide open to really knock down the threes consistently. He is shooting them well this year. But let's say the starting lineup would be they want to have Ben Simmons at point guard. So you got Ben Simmons at point guard. Trying to think, shooting guard. You probably have, who's their starting shooting guard over there? I don't know, who's their starting shooting guard.
Henderson.
So you got Ben Simmons, Henderson when Ben Simmons comes back. Ben Simmons, Henderson, Robert Covington, and then you got Jalil at power forward and Joel. Let's say that's a potential starting lineup. So you have to see if that works or not. Okay, you'd have to see if that works. So I do agree that you have to have more of the wait. You have to have more of the wait and see approach rather than trying to trade Nerlens too early.
Plus, Embiid's on minute restrictions too.
Yeah. So that's our take on that. That's our Sixers takes for the time being. And so, guys, we're gonna talk on another famous coach who's inserting foot in mouth, talking about black players and their fathers. This time it's football coach Bobby Bowden. So this doesn't need any further ado. It's just like George Karl. I know all of us have spent time talking about this. So, Tristiania, you can take off about what you think about these coaches talking about single fathers and how their players are lacking in the father department. Go ahead, talk about it.
So when I listened to this, I'm not gonna lie, I laughed because I couldn't believe he said this out loud in an interview and made a joke about it. I think we just need to, take a minute and give props to all these single parents out there doing the thing and, getting their kids where they need to go and making the sacrifices so that, these kids can go out there and live their dreams. but just so inappropriate. And I mean, it did raise an interesting point in a different vein, just about where our community is in terms of parenting and single parents and the relationship between kids growing up in single parent homes and their other parent. But it's not a joke. It's not something to make light of and to basically trash your players because of the circumstances that they grew up in. There are a lot of strong Black women raising strong Black men in our community, and I don't know. I wonder at what point people are going to actually have to have repercussions for stuff like this. I mean, he's not coaching anymore, so there's not really much you can do to him. So, but I don't know. I see so many single parents every day who, in my own life, that work so hard and do so well for their kids, and it's not something that anyone has the right to mock, and to say that those boys have earrings because they want to be like their mothers, and it's just, who do you think you are? Yeah, that's what I got.
Take off, Matt.
Wow. I did hear a little bit about it, and it is a bit appalling. I myself being on both sides of the fence, having 2-parent house and a single parent, and being raised in a single parent home in my later childhood. First of all, me personally as a coach, I coach baseball. You don't make light of anyone's situation because you don't know where they've been and how they have to deal with their struggle on a day-to-day basis. And to make light of it is insensitive. It's very insensitive. Children nowadays, nowadays it's particularly in the hood, it's a lot of single parents homes now more than ever, say, than they were 20, 30 years ago. And to make light of that situation is something that is flat out disrespectful to those parents who are doing what they're supposed to do and then some. And for a lot of these players, sports is pretty much an escape from the day-to-day realities of life, and to make light of their player situation, it's not right. And also, you have to look at it this way: you're a coach. Your job as a coach is not only to coach them through the preparation of the game in which they are playing or getting ready for. You're coaching character. You're teaching character. Excuse me. You're teaching literally the intangibles that sports bring. You know, the teamwork, the responsibility. You look at everything else that is taught, but really not taught, but taught in sports. Really, so to make light of it, it is downright disrespectful. It is downright deplorable. And you can't, like I said, you can't make light of that situation at all. You just to sit here and to make light of one child situation, one man situation, or just say, or just joke about it. Is it really? It also shows the ignorance that's been brewing in this country over the last 10 years. We're talking. It's been settled for so long. Now it's come out ahead. It's like this is where America is right now, and not just politically. This is where we are socially, and if we don't make an about face quickly, it's going to get worse over time. So as a coach, you have to be careful how you say things, how you present things, because you're not just a mentor, but you're also some type of a father figure or a motherly figure to those that you're coaching. So as a coach, there's a certain decorum that you have to hold yourself to, whether you're in the game or not. You're still a coach, no matter what or where you are at any point or any stage in your life. And that's my take on it. Colin, go.
Cool. My take on it is this. Yet again, we have a case of a coach violating the trust of his players. And you got the both perspectives. You got the sports journalist perspective, the journalist perspective when it comes to Tristiania, and the rawness of what she's talking about. And then you have Matt, who's been on both sides of it, and as a coach as well. And my take on it is this: as somebody who I've never coached a day in my life, but I've been a player for coaches and different things, playing basketball and running track. So as a coach, you're like a father figure or a mother figure, whether that athlete comes from a two-parent household, a single-parent household, whatever kind of household. You're supposed to take care of the person. What are Bobby Bowden and George Karl thinking when they come out and violate the trust of the players and violate the coaching fraternity? What is wrong with them? There are a lot of people who work their way up to be coaches, earn the players' trust and stuff, and now you're messing it up for them, because you have players that will say, "Nah, I don't want to share my personal stuff with you. How I know you won't go write a book about it after you get fired and you fail at coaching and you get fired a couple of times, or you retire and then you start getting on interviews talking about me in an unsolicited fashion." And Bobby Bowden, he's a great coach, but sometimes these coaches that are so great just have no filter. What happens in the locker room stays in the locker room. What is told in private stays in private, unless it's like a crime or something. In this case, being from a single parent household, wanting to wear earrings or whatever is not a crime. And like Tristiania said, who are you to say that because somebody want to wear earrings, they want to be closer to their mother? First off, it's ignorant of the times, but it also shows the machismo, machoism that is in football. No offense to football players. That is in football, that you think somebody wearing an earring is considered not masculine. So what makes you think that? Sometimes these players just want to express themselves, and the only real way to express themselves, a la Michael Crabtree, is to wear a chain during a football game or to wear earrings and stuff during games. Like Dennis Rodman was the most flamboyant basketball player probably ever, and the world is still going, but nobody wanted to take him on in a fight. He's a man that's wore wedding dresses on live TV.
I bet you Phil Jackson was in Detroit too.
I bet you Phil Jackson. You don't see Phil Jackson telling on him. Like what is wrong with George Karl and Bobby Bowden that they think now, because they coach black players all their lives and in their professional career, they think now they have the the authority to write a thesis about what's wrong with athletes today, and most of them majority black athletes. I'm pretty sure if they were lacrosse coaches, they wouldn't be writing tell-all books. They are destroying the platform that they have, and they're destroying the coaching platform. They're making it so much harder for coaches, and it's just horrible. And I was a player, so I understand that relationship. Coach, you trust your coach to put you in the best situations to succeed. You trust your coach to look out for you. Bobby Bowden, George Karl, how are you looking out for your players now by telling on them now? George Karl, how are you looking out for Carmelo Anthony by saying what you said about him and his Baltimore upbringing? How are you looking out for Kenyon Martin, who's not even playing anymore? And now you decide in 2016, almost 20 years later, to tell on the man. J.R. Smith, who are you? Bobby Bowden, Florida State, great players you coached. Who are you to talk about people that wear earrings that you coached? Stay in your lane. Stay retired. Don't say nothing. When people ask you your opinion about football and basketball, give it to them. But when it comes to locker room stuff and trying to make bucks, why are you trying to make big money off your players? You're making it tougher for the next kind of player. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna shut it down here as far as this one, because I think that we've all had enough about talking about both of these coaches.
Oh yeah, let's say one more thing. And one of the players that I think Bowden did coach was Deion Sanders, and you remember Deion Sanders, he had the earrings and everything else too, and he's a Hall of Famer. So think about that one.
Yep. Yeah, that's true. Like I said, they're just destroying trust no matter where they go, in books and radio interviews. No one, I think somebody even said, somebody on ESPN was like, they have an unnamed source in the NBA that said George Karl will never coach in the NBA again. And, like Tristiani has said, there's nothing we can really do about Bobby Bowden because he's retired. So, give him air time anymore. But yeah, I'm going to go straight to my final take. And my final take is on the Cowboys. I'm on my Stephen A. Smith right now. To Cowboys fans, I want to tell you that congratulations, your team is the number 1 seed, but I hate to kick Cowboys fans at their happiest. But your best defensive weapon, not named Sean Lee, just got suspended again for the whole postseason and the whole season of 2017 because he can't, on my Stephen A. Smith, stay off the drugs. Randy Gregory. Tisk, 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 Cowboys fans. So there goes your pass rush, and we all know your defense really isn't all that to ride home about anyway. It's just amazing. It's like Stephen A. Smith said, you're an accident waiting to happen. And it well, it doesn't really pain me to say it, I won't lie. But it's so refreshing to see them just implode now. You have Jerry Jones saying, I want Tony to lead us to a Super Bowl. He's trying to pull a Peyton Manning and bring in Tony Romo and sit down the young guy. That's just going to implode in his face too. Because the last time, whether they played Green Bay or the Giants, the last time the Cowboys had to face Green Bay, they wound up losing. And the Giants have the Cowboys' numbers, so the Cowboys might be screwed regardless of who wins that game. So you got that working against your Cowboys fans. You got the fact that people are finally figuring out Dak. They're blitzing him like the Eagles did. They just blitzed him all day, hit him, made him throw, made him beat him. Told Ezekiel Elliott, you're not running, even though he didn't play. And that's what's going to happen in the playoffs. Teams are going to start, and your offensive line is your best offensive linemen are are injured. They have knee injuries, hamstring injuries. You don't know if they'll play. Zach Martin's injured. There's so many things working against you, Cowboys fans. It's kind of fool's gold right now. Like, you think you're the best. You spent all this time on your offensive line. You've had everybody saying you're going to a Super Bowl. But people forget that in the NFL, it's not always the best team that wins. It's the hottest team. And right now, the Cowboys are not the hottest team. An argument can legitimately be made that the two hottest teams in football, of the two hottest teams in football, only one of them is in the NFC. And that's the Packers. Mr. Relax. That Cowboys defense is going to get strutted if they have to play Aaron Rodgers with the way he's playing right now. They have a chance against the Giants, but the Giants have beat them 2 times in a row. And I know it's hard to go 3-0 against an opponent in a year, but y'all have to remember that we just wrapped up an Olympic year. And during the Olympic years, that's usually when the Giants wind up in the Super Bowl. So you just have to look at it. It doesn't look good for the Cowboys. Now, of course, this is all on paper, but it really doesn't. You either have a matchup with the team that literally and figuratively has your number in the Giants, or you got to face one of the hottest quarterbacks going right now in Aaron Rodgers. It's not looking good. Plus, you don't have Randy Gregory. Your offensive line is injured. Dak Prescott is slowly getting figured out. Ezekiel Elliott will have 3 weeks off before he's seen a game. It's not looking good for you, man. It's fool's gold. It really is. It's fool's gold. And for the Cowboys faithful, I'm not gonna lie to you. It's hard for me to separate while I'm talking about this. To separate the Philadelphia Eagles fan, but I'm gonna take that out. Objectively, you have a great offensive line that's banged up. You have a quarterback that's slowly being figured out with the blitzes, a running back who will have 3 weeks off, so will probably have some rust, and it's not looking good for you. It's fool's gold, man. The Cowboys are fool's gold, and you would be foolish, I tell you, to put your money on the Cowboys to make the Super Bowl this year. That was our final hot take by Kyron Watson, killing the game. Toot my own horn here. So I want to thank Tristiania and Matt once again for coming through. Tristiania being our first female contributor in the history of this podcast. Thank you guys so much. It's about that time. It's 12:35 on Saturday. As often happens with this podcast, we start on Friday night and early on Saturday morning. But as I said, big things are happening. We have a new podcast now with our more entertainment and pop culture podcast on Thursdays at 8 o'clock. The Crossover Podcast presents Blurred Talk. I want to thank all of them, Tristiania, Matt, Trey, all the people who are not here, Kaylin, Kenan, Taj, everyone who couldn't make it. Thank you for listening. Have a great weekend. It's just great, and I hope that we'll have a more full podcast. I'm very thankful that Tristiania didn't count a robbery to come and share her thoughts on the sports stuff. So thank you guys so much. Like I said, have a great weekend. Enjoy your holiday. Thank you so much. Peace.
Thanks.
No problem. Peace.
Ciao.